Oh, thank you, thank you. Like that's it. Okay. Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And we will be. No, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Thank you. We're ready to commence our service. Shana Tova to everyone and a good Yontif. And Chag Sameach. We begin our service on page 135. Entering the day, let us join in prayer. Together, we stand this day, all of us, in the presence of our God, youth and elders, women and men, those close to tradition and those who have been estranged. All are welcome in this community of prayer. Around the world, all Israel greets this holy day. We stand with them, a people united by our history and fate, linked in mind and heart to generations past, who stood before God to be cleansed of their sins in Russia, Poland, Germany, and Spain, in Morocco, Egypt, Brazil, and India. Our great-grandparents are here with us today, and our great-great-grandchildren as well. All are present in memory and hope. We stand this sacred morning, all of us, as one. And our service continues now with Ma Tovu, page 138.
Israel.
continue now on page 171, If Our Mouths Were Filled with Song as the Sea. If our mouths were filled with song as the sea, our tongues with music like the crash of ocean waves, our lips with praise endless as the sky above, our eyes aglow like sun and moon, our arms reaching toward heaven like eagle's wings, our legs as graceful as the gazelle in flight, still our words of thanks to you would not suffice, Adonai, our God and God of all ages, nor could we bless your name enough for your infinite acts of kindness to our ancestors and to us. We continue now with Hamelech, page 173, the prelude to the Hatzikadish.
Hamelech HaYoshev Al Kisei Ram V'Nisah Ya 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 Shochenad Maram V'Kadosh Shemo Ay 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 V'chatav Ranan Tzadikim Adonai Ay 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 La'yesharim Navatehila Ay 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 B'fi Yesharim Titlomam Ay 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 Uv'divrei tzadikim titrom et barach Ay 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 Uv'shol chasidim titkargash Ay 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 Uv'kerev kedoshim titala Ay 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 Uv'kerev kedoshim Alai lai 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 Uv'kerev kedoshim titala.
We continue now with the Hatzikadish on page 176.
It gadol, it gadash, shmei
And we continue now with a reading on page 180 in the middle of the page. Together, in love you bring light to the earth and its creatures. Your goodness renews the creation each day. Infinite, varied, and rich are your works, divine artist. All of them wrought with wisdom. The whole earth is teeming with life. Awestruck by the universe work of your hands, let all life bless you, praise you, and celebrate the beauty of your lights. And we continue now with, on page 184, the bottom reading. Together, bring us in peace from the four corners of the earth. Lead us with upright pride to the land that is ours. For you are a God of miracles and wonders. From all the peoples of the earth you sought us out and brought us near to your great, enduring truth. So with love we acknowledge and proclaim that you are one. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher bi'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. Please rise for the Shema on page 186 and 187, followed by the V'ahavta. Together on page 188 with the V'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'kol nefeshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha vidibartam bishivtecha bibitecha uvlektecha vaderek uvishochbecha uvikumecha uktatam leot ayadecha והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם לכל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You may be seated. And let us join in prayer, page 196. Of all that is worshipped, is there another like you, maker of wonders, who is like you, in holiness sublime, evoking awe and praise? At the sea, with a new song on their lips, the redeemed praised your name. Overflowing with gratitude, they proclaimed your sovereignty and spoke as one declaring, the eternal will reign till the end of time. Rock of Israel, arise and come to the help of your people. Keep your word by redeeming Judah and Israel. The eternal and infinite one is our Redeemer, our source of holiness. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. The Michamocha, top of page 196. Let us turn, before we begin the tefillah, to page 199, prelude to the tefillah. Guided by the wisdom of our tradition and the spiritual insights of our sages, we open ourselves through prayer to the Sovereign of compassion. We open our lips to seek the soul of forgiveness. Please rise as we begin on page 199.
Yisod hachamim ulevonim ay 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 umilahem dat bevinim aftecha feed betefila uvetachanונים lechalot ulechanim למלך מלא רחמים, מוחל וסולח לעוונים.
Page 200.
Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, ay 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 El Agadol, Agadol, Agibor v'Ador Elyon, Akom Mel Chasadim Tovim Elonei Agadol. וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, חסדי אבות ואימהות, ההוא מביא גואל את בני למען שלו ביעקבו. Page 202. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכתבנו בספר החיים. וזוכרנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר, ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן Avraham Ezrat Sarah.
Page 204.
אתה גיבור עולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה לא הושיע, מוריד הכל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומציל אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מימי, מלך מימי, ומחיה, ומצמיח, ומצמיח, ישוע, מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורם לחיים רחמים, מי כמוך, מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורם לחיים ברחמים, בנאמן אתה יחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
And we remain standing for the Unatana Tokef, page 208. And I want to remind everyone that if at any time you feel just a need to sit down because of either the fast, the day itself, the seriousness of the day, always feel free to do so. The standing is only a sign of respect to God and the respect to the service at certain points of the service. So if any time, especially when we're standing for a period of time, if you feel the need to sit, please do so. We continue now with the Unatana Tokef on page 208 in the middle of the page.
Unatane Tokef Kudeshot Hayom Ki Hu Nora Ve'ayom Uvoti Nasi Malchutecha Vigon Bechisid Kisicha V'tishiv Alav B'met.
On page 210, let us join in prayer. Together. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. And we continue once again on page 212 at the bottom of the page. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? who by strangling and who by stoning, who will rest and who will wander, who will be tranquil and who will be troubled, who will be calm and who tormented, who live in prosperity, who will be humbled and who will be exalted. Top of page 212, you may be seated. B'Rosh Hashanah Yikatevim.
Rosh Hashanah ikatevu, ikatevun, uyom zum Kippur ikatemun, ikatemun.
And let us continue now at the top of page 214. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Please rise for the Kedusha, page 218. We're going to continue now in silent devotion, in your own thoughts and meditations. In the prayer book from page 228 to page 248. As may be your tradition, you may either stand or of course be seated. Let us join in prayer with the Avinu Malkeinu, page 252. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, enter the names of the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer, Sha'arei Shamayim. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. And we continue with the Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Ve'anenu. Please join.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu levanecha. Avinu
You may be seated. Our service continues now with the Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of the Torah. We begin on page 254. We call Michael Holberg to the bima. Please rise as the ark is open and as we take out the Torah. In Kamocha, page 255.
In Kamocha vayoim Adonai, v'in kamasecha, malchutecha, malchut olamim, ulminshatecha, mikol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, leolam vaed. Adonai Hotz le'amoitin, Adonai Yivarech et amo v'shalom.
And we continue now with Adonai, page 256.
Adonai, Adonai, Rachum v'chanun, Erech Hagoyim v'chesed v'emet, Notzeh chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon v'resha, v'chata'a v'nachem.
Continue with the Shema, page 256.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Hashamot.
The reading of the Torah is taken from the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Devarim. And I will tell you the page in just a moment. It's on page 266. It sets forth a vision of who we are to be before God, affirming as we are today the eternal covenant between God and Israel, and by extension, God and all of humanity on this day. Yom Kippur is not simply a holiday, a fast day for us as Jews. It's unique. But as I mentioned last night, when we recite the Ashamnu, we are reciting it for all of humanity. Many of us have not committed many of the sins that we take responsibility for when we recite the Al-Chet or when we recite the Ashamnu. But we are part of humanity, and therefore, in the eyes of God, in our tradition, all of us are responsible for each other. And that begins with the affirmation at Sinai. There is a tradition that says that Moses, when he went up the second time to receive the Torah, he stayed there 40 days and 40 nights. And he went up on the 1st of Elul, and he came down on the 10th of Tishrei. In other words, he came down on the morning of Yom Kippur. You may follow the reading of the Torah on page 266. And we call for the first Aliyah, Lowell and Babette Friedman.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Vahed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher b'chabarnu mikol ha'amim. V'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem. Rashechem shiftechem, ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael. Tapchem neshechem v'gerecha asher v'ker mechanecha mechotei v'etzacha ad shoev me'echa liavracha bivrid. Adonai Elohecha uvialato, asher Adonai Elohecha koretimcha hayom.
Amen. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayim olam nota b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We now call for the second Aliyah, Gil and Enid Layden.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher b'chabarnu mikol ha'amim. V'nasan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Leman hakim otcha hayom lo leyom העולם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם וליצחק וליעקב, ולא איתכם לבדכם, אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת. כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נשא לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נושא בסותנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נושאין התורה.
We now call to the Torah Josh and Sheridan Briskman. Will, would you like to come and
Please. Why not? Of course. Why not?
Absolutely.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vayed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah Le'olam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. והיה כי יבואו עליך כל הדברים האלה, הברכה והקללה אשר נתתי לפניך, והשבותה אל לבביך בכל הגויים אשר הדיחך אדוני אלוהיך שמה, ושבת עד אדוני אלוהיך ושמעת וקולו ככל אשר אנוכי מצווך היום, אתה ובניך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך, ושב אדוני אלוהיך את שבותך וריחמך וריחמך, ושב וקרבצך מכל העמים אשר הפיצך אדוני אלוהיך שמה.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'hayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We now call to the Torah Richard and Diane Frank.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai and Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barakabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן. אם יהיה נידחך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך ויביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ישו אבותיך ורישת והיטיבך והרבך מאבותיך ומל אדוני אלוהיך את לבבך ואת לבב זרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betakenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And for the fifth Aliyah, we call James Perry.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech Baruch Adonai Emarak
Baruch Adonai Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech asher b'shar b'panu Amen Laten Amen Torah Baruch atah Adonai Laten Torah.
Amen.
Amen. V'natan Adonai Elohecha et kahalot ha'ele al oivecha v'asonecha asher radafucha v'ata tashuv v'shamata b'kol Adonai v'asita et kol mitzvotav asher anochi mitzavcha hayom v'hotircha Adonai Elohecha b'kol maaseh yadecha b'fri vidnecha u'v'fri v'hemdecha u'v'fri admatcha l'tova ki yashuv Adonai lasus alecha latov kasher sas al avotecha ki tishma b'kol Adonai Elohecha lishmor mitzvotav v'chukotav haktuva b'sefer haTorah hazeh ki tashuv el Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natanu l'toret yemet kohem olam nator she Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
James.
And for the sixth Aliyah, we call Larry and Leslie Miller.
Baruch hu Adonai habarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vayed.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki hamitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lo nifleiti mimcha v'lo rechoka hi lo v'shamayim hi lemor mi ya'ale lanu hashamayim vayikachecha lanu vayishmi'enu otav v'na'asena v'lo me'ever layam hi lemor mi ya'avor lanu el ever hayam vayikachecha lanu Vayashmienu otav v'na'asena ki karov elecha hadavar me'od beficha uvilvavcha la'asoto.
Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Gabba.
We continue now with the Misha Berach, a prayer for those in need of healing. And that prayer may be found on page 230, page. Thank you. Page 273.
May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say Amen.
We pray for the healing of Bobby Davis, Matthew McCormick, Paul Bradley, Robin Mayer, Mark Siegel, Rhoda Bennett, Elaine Berman, and Charmaine Mosier. Now I ask people on Zoom to unmute themselves and to add names of anyone in need of spiritual or physical healing.
Joan Siegel Rader.
Now turn to the congregation. Just as my eyes meet yours, you can say out loud or to yourselves the names of anyone who you know in need of spiritual or physical healing, emotional healing.
John Johnson, Dr. Charles Smith.
Thank you.
Susan Baker.
All those ill with COVID, and our hearts continue to go out to those who are still suffering the effects of 9/11, and our servicemen and women who have returned home from Afghanistan and who are reorienting themselves to our country. We pray for all of them to be healed speedily and quickly.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We now call David Furman to lift the Torah and Priscilla Gold Darby to tie the Torah. Please rise. be seated. Can you all hear me in the back? Okay, now? Apologize for moving the microphone away. The next part of our service is the reading of the Haftorah, the prophetic reading, which is taken from the book of Isaiah, and it talks really about what is the purpose of the fast. And as we've learned, the purpose of the fast is to motivate us to do good works in the world. And you'll hear the Haftorah read in English by Patricia Silverman. And the blessings before the Haftorah and the blessings afterwards will be chanted by Miriam Fry. And we call them now to the Bima. It begins on page 275 with the blessings before the Haftarah. I'll ask Patricia also to come forward.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bechar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanaemerim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher batorah uv-Moshe avdo Uv Yisrael amo, uvinviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Page 277.
Cry, cry from the depth, say God. Do not hold back. Lift up your voice like the shofar. Tell my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sin. Yes, they seek me daily, as though eager to learn my ways, as if there were nations that does what is right and has not abandoned God's law. They ask me the right way, eager for God to see it. We afflict ourselves, and you do not know it, because even on your fast day, you think only of desire, while oppressing all who works for you, because your fasting is filled with strife, and with callous fists you strike. No, your fasting this day will not lift up your voice before heaven. Is this the fast I desired? A day to afflict body and soul? Bowing your head like a reed, covering yourself with sackcloth and ashes. Do you call this a fast, a day worthy of favor of Adonai? Is not this the fast I desired? To break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke, to let the oppressed go free and release all those enslaved. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to take the homeless poor into your home? And never to neglect your own flesh and blood. Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall quickly heal, your righteous one leading the way before you, the presence of Adonai guarding you from behind. Then when you call, Adonai will answer, and when you cried, will respond, I am here. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hands, the malicious word, if you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night become bright as noon. Adonai will guide you always, slake your thirst in parched places, give strength to your bones. You should be like a well-watered garden in unfailing spring. From you they will rebuild ancient ruins, lay foundations for ages to come, and you should be called the one who mends the breach and bring back the streets for dwelling. If you cease to trump Shabbat, stop pursuing your affairs on my holy day. If you call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Adonai, honor it. And if you honor God by not doing business or speaking of everyday matter, then shall you take pure delight in Adonai. I will lift up your journey on earth to the highest places and nourish you from the heritage of your father Jacob. For thou spoke Adonai. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer voseh, hamdaber kayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, V'ne'emanim divarecha, v'davar echad midvarecha, achur yashuv rekam. Ki el melech ne'eman, v'rachaman ata. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav. Rachem al Zion, ki hi beit chayenu, valu alav nefesh toshia, bimreha v'yamenu. Baruch atah Adonai, misameach Zion bivanecha.
Amen. Thank you for that beautiful reading and for that chanting. We now return the Torah to the Ark, Yehalalu and Eitz Chaim, page 290 and page 291. Please rise.
Thank you.
You may be seated. They don't know when I'm going to speak. It's not on the thing, so. My dear friends, there is a technique in golf which, as a metaphor, applies to our congregation. Before one hits a golf shot, the person is to stand behind the ball, looks at the flag, which can be hundreds of yards away, and the person envisions, either with eyes open or eyes closed, just the perfect swing, the beautiful ball trajectory towards the green. And so instead of worrying about technique, they take their stance and swing the club just as they imagined. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Some of you may recall a similar technique that played a part in the Broadway musical, The Music Man. The protagonist, a con man, promises the town that their children will play a musical instrument without ever reading a note of music. His technique employs the same principle. Just imagine the song and it'll come out fine. And as the play reaches its climax, the students take their rightful positions, having never played a single note of music, and together they play something that has some vague melody to it. The parents think that their children are ready for Carnegie Hall. In the Torah's narrative, both God and Moses set forth a vision for the Jewish people, for our people, that has endured for over 3 millennia. Let us go back to Sinai when our ancestors received the Torah, and there the essence of this vision was made clear. We were to be a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nations. And our ancestors long ago, without even knowing what was in the Torah, responded, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do it and we will understand. It was the acceptance of this vision of how we were to see ourselves for generations to come, a kingdom of priests and a holy people. This was the core of the vision at Mount Sinai. And let us now move forward to the day when Moses' life will come to an end. The generation that stood at Sinai has died in the wilderness. A new generation of Israelites, our ancestors, are standing at the edge of the Jordan River, about to cross over into Israel, where they will live for the next 700 years. He reminds them of their ancestors' and parents' covenantal promise, a promise that will run with the land of Israel and forever, regardless of what may befall them in the future. They will be this mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, regardless of whatever history may unfold for us. At once, this covenant is both a renewal of the past and a new covenant, because this generation and subsequent generations will fulfill the covenant promised to Abraham and Sarah that their descendants would one day return to the land as an inheritance, a rightful inheritance, and would be a people devoted to God through Torah. These were children of the next generation whose parents, slaves to the Egyptians, followed Moses into the unknown of the wilderness. These slaves crossed the Red Sea and went to Sinai, where they affirmed this covenant, only to die in the wilderness after 40 years of wandering. Their children now stand at the crossroads of the Jordan River, ready to affirm a new covenant where Torah would be the ikar, the core of our identity, a vision of what life might look like in the future. Indeed, just as an aside, we never would have a land of Israel today, a Jewish homeland, were it not for the vision that we kept alive for generations and generations and generations. Now, what does it mean to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation? Our rabbi struggled with this vision. What did this mean? Adopting this vision could mean nothing more than an inflated sense of self. If we equate this romantic image of ourselves with the Torah, which is what we're commanded to do, this generates further difficulties. There are so many commandments, ordinances, and laws, 613 to be exact, that there appears to be no organizing principle that can be filtered as a guide for righteous behavior in this world. Is the person who observes the commandment of kashrut, is that the same as someone who will be righteous in their dealings with others and will heal the sick? How do we balance those things out? How do we spend our time in observance of Torah? It's a tremendous challenge if all commandments are considered to be equal. So hence our sages had to address this critical question: what did it mean to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation? And they tried in the Talmud Makot at page 24a. They cite numerous prophets who continued to reduce the principles of Torah and thereby defining what it meant to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. They started with 12 and they went down to 1. Time, of course, and my voice does not permit me to enumerate all 12. So I've selected only one such statement, one that perhaps many of you have heard in different ways. What is of interest is how our sages of the Talmud interpreted it. The passage is from Micah 6, verse 8. Higid lecha adam ma tov u'ma yiyeh doresh mimcha ki im la'asot mishpat ve'avat chesed v'chatznei lechet im Elohecha. It has been told to you what is good and what God seeks from you. You already know this. It is only to act justly, to embrace, to love chesed, which are acts of loving kindness, and to walk humbly unto God. The Talmud now expounds. So what does that mean to act justly? It means the doing of justice in everyday life, to treat people fairly. To embrace compassion refers to the doing of selfless acts for others, to be altruistic. To walk humbly with your God, and this is most interesting, references the taking of those who are indigent for burial, or bringing a bride who has no dowry, who is poor, to the chuppah, the wedding canopy. These principles are applied in our everyday communal life because our communal life is to make our homes and make our community a house of God. Acting in a just manner means treating all those who enter this sacred space, this Beit HaMikdash, with fundamental fairness at each moment of our encounter. The embracing of compassion refers to selfless acts, actions in which we expect nothing in return. And finally, walking humbly before God means to elevate everyone to the level of human dignity that affirms that each person, regardless of their station in life, we are to see them as created in the image and likeness of God, especially, we are told, those who are indigent and without financial resources. And if we treat the disenfranchised in this fashion, how much the more so, they argue, are we to treat each other with humility and loving kindness and fundamental fairness. These ideals are never fully realized. There are moments when we experience in them where we do something so good for someone else that we feel a kind of glow because we know what we are doing has made the world, has made our community, has made that person's life a little bit better. No one ever dwells in the house of God forever. No people can ever be at every single moment a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, just like the person who does that golf swing. Sometimes that technique, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's the vision. and it's important to keep that vision. What's important is the desire to reach that level and to strive towards that end that matters. It doesn't matter the flight of the ball, and it doesn't matter whether we achieve that lofty state of being. When our founding fathers established this temple, they embraced the covenant's totality in the name, and which gives us and should give us some pause as we go forward. Sha'arei Shamayim, the gates of heaven, you heard it in the Avinu Malkeinu, is only recited at Yom Kippur, and we'll hear it once again as the gates of heaven are closing during the Ne'ilah service. It is a metaphor that at the last conceivable moment, the eye of our heart turns to God, as we will do so this evening. And as I indicated in the previous sermon, our ancestors added a second name taken from Psalm 13, verse 12. And there it reads, "He will spare the poor and the needy, and shall save the souls of those in need." The critical piece of this verse is often overlooked. Who is the He? We often think, well, He's got to be God. But that's not the case. The He will spare the poor. It's not a reference to God. The He, and the psalmist is considered to be David, refers to Solomon. The psalmist's prayer is that his successor will use his wisdom to care for those who are less fortunate, to those who are in need, and to save those in Solomon's care. Collectively, we have the capacity for insight, and we have the knowledge of a Solomon, if not even greater. Our ancestors demanded nothing less from succeeding generations. The founders of this temple demanded that we act like Solomon, that we spare the poor, that we attend to the needs of those in need, and we attend to the souls of those in need. I believe this was the vision of our founding fathers here at Sha'arei Shamayim, to follow in the path of wisdom. And so in becoming a Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, let us imagine closing our eyes and feeling that we will be fair to one another, that we know what that means. Let us embrace compassion and see ourselves as acting with loving kindness, lishma, for its own sake. Let us walk humbly before God by uplifting the lives of those who are less fortunate. A Midrash teaches that on Yom Kippur, a day of transition, when we become pure, we are freeing ourselves of sin. When we come here, and now, even now, we are regarded in the tradition as being entirely pure, the same as when Moses came down from Sinai with the Torah. On this day, our ancestors affirmed our sacred covenant with God to be a Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, a vision that we carry with us to this day, with one another, for all of humankind, and for all the generations, me'ata v'ad olam, through eternity. Amen. Our service continues now with the Shema Kolenu. Hear our prayer on page 294. We join in prayer. Hear our call, Adonai, our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew our days as in the past. Hear our words, Adonai. Understand our unspoken thoughts. May the speech of our mouth and our heart's quiet prayer be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and our redeemer. Do not cast us away from your presence or cut us off from your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us away when we are old, as our strength diminishes. Do not forsake us. Do not forsake us, Adonai. Be not far from us, our God. With hope, Adonai, we await you. Surely you, Adonai, our God, you will answer. And before I chant the Shema Kolenu, I want to just take a moment and explain to some extent the music that we use in our service. We went, as you know, from an organ today to some of the more modern Reformed music. Music is what resonates in the hearts of many, and many grew up in the tradition of the organ and the classical Reform. And we feel that that still needs to be kept alive, and that we need to hear that music because that is the music, that is the prayer of our ancestors. And so you heard the organ and you will hear it again. At the same time, you heard more modern Reform melodies, Reform music that is set to prayer. And then you heard my chanting. My chanting is only from my chazan, who was my first chazan when I was a student rabbi, who came from Częstochowa, Poland, and who had learned his melodies, who had learned his nusach from his Hasidic uncle. And so we continue now in that tradition with the Shema Kolenu, page 294. Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu, Shema, Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Whose Rachem, Rachem, Rachem Aleinu, Utekabel, Vrachamim, Vratzon, Utekabel, Vrachamim, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashnuva Chadesh, 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 Chadesh Ameinu, Chadesh Ameinu, Kekedem, Al Tashlichenu milfanecha, Al Tashlichenu, Al Tashlichenu milfanecha, V'ruach kodshecha, V'ruach kodshecha, Al tikach minenu, Al tashlichenu, Al tashlichenu li'et hazikana, li'et hazikana, Al tashlichenu li'et hazikana, Al kil kochenu kochenu, Al kil kochenu kochenu, We continue on page 296 in the middle of the page. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed, we have done wrong. Eloheinu, 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 מתפילותינו, ואל תתעלה מתחינתנו, אבל אנחנו עזי פנים וקשי עורף, לומר לפניך אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו, אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו. Please rise for the Ashana. You may be seated. There is a vidui for the 21st century on page 307. Let us join together. We confess our sins against the earth, and we commit ourselves to saving it. We have assaulted our planet in countless ways. We have blamed others for the spiraling, deepening crisis. We have consumed thoughtlessly and irresponsibly. We have driven myriad species to the point of extinction. We have exhausted irreplaceable resources. We have failed to transcend borders and act unselfishly. We have given in to our many appetites and our gluttony. We have harmed beyond repair the habitats of living beings. We have ignored the signs of change in our climate and our seasons. We have jeopardized the well-being of future generations. We have known the problem but left problem solving to others. We have lost sight of our role as God's partners in creation. We have mocked cynically those who love creatures great and small. We have neglected the environment, most of all in places of poverty. We have overpopulated our cities and overfished our oceans. We have polluted seashore and sky, fertile soil and freshwater springs. We have questioned and doubted solid evidence of danger. We have ravaged the old growth forests, ecosystems created over centuries. We have spewed poison into the bloodstream of our land, its rivers, lakes, and estuaries. We have transformed dazzling beauty into industrial ugliness. We have used shared resources for personal gain and corporate profit. We have violated the commandment, do not destroy. We have wasted precious treasures, our God-given gifts. We have exploited the weakest and most vulnerable in our midst, and yet we yearn to be better guardians of this earth and the fullness thereof. Let us be zealous now to care for this unique corner of the cosmos, this planet, our sacred home. V'al kulam Elohai slichot, for all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement. Page 306, V'al kulam. And we continue now on page 310, in the middle of the page. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people and you are our God. We are your children and you are our father, our mother. We are the people who serve you and you call us to serve. We are your community and you are our portion. We are your legacy and you are our purpose. We are your flock and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard and you watch over us. We are your work and you are our maker. We are your beloved and you are our lover. We are your treasure and you are the one we cherish. We are your people and you reign over us. We offer you our words and you offer us yours. Ki anu amecha, top of page 310.
Ki anu amecha ve'atamachinu, anu vonecha ve'atavinu, anu nachalatecha ve'ataravinu, anu tzonecha ve'ataroinu, anu charmecha ve'atanotrinu, anu rayatecha ve'atadodinu.
And as we draw this portion to a close, and as we have done vidui with, we have confessed to God, let us also recount our acts of goodness. Page 313. Let us read responsively. Let us affirm the good we have done. let us acknowledge our acts of healing and repair. For the good we have done through acts of generosity and compassion. For the good we have done by honoring our parents with care and respect. For the good we have done through acts of forgiveness and reconciliation. For the good we have done through the work of our hands and by serving others. For the good we have done by housing the homeless, feeding the hungry, and welcoming the stranger. For the good we have done through thoughtful and encouraging words. For the good we have done by strengthening our Jewish community. All these we have brought light, together all these have brought light and healing into the world. May these acts inspire us to renew our efforts in the year to come. Before we conclude our service with Hayom, there are so many people to thank for these services. The man behind the curtain, Andy Palaleo, is the one responsible for the sound that we're able to hear, as well as facilitating people coming onto Zoom and being a part of our service. Of course, Chris, Molly, and Demi, the services are what they are because of the three of you, and it is beautiful as you're playing, and your voices are the ruach, the spirit in which you bring them, truly washes over this entire congregation and really creates the kadosh, I think, that our tradition envisions that prayer should be. We are so grateful. I want to thank the members of the leadership team, especially the executive committee that has worked tirelessly these past few weeks to put the proper things together, as well as the men's club for their work in setting up the sanctuary, and most of all to all of you for really creating a spiritual home. Just a few short announcements of what's going to take place the rest of the afternoon. Gil, did you want me to? At 2 o'clock, there'll be a study session for those who just want to stay here and want something to do. We're going to be studying a chapter in Maimonides' book is about 2 pages. It's not very long. We're going to study a section of Maimonides' Guide of the Perplexed. It deals with what is the role of government. It's a very fascinating treatise, and if you're interested in that, it's not what you think. It's not political. We don't, but it's Maimonides' concept of what government should be, or what government should address itself with respect to its citizens. At 3 o'clock, there will be, we call it a musical interlude. I would call it a spiritual interlude. I'm just playing with words right now. Some of you have attended this beautiful hours worth of just beautiful sacred music. That will be from 3 to 4. That will feature Molly, Chris, and Demi. I'm very excited to hear that. And that's a wonderful prelude to the Yisker. Those of you, of course, who will be coming back for Yisker. That will be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It will begin with a reading of the names and then proceed right to the Yisker. At 5 o'clock, there will be the Ne'ilah service, and I am dedicated that so long as we start on time, that we will finish no later than 6 o'clock in the evening. There's also, I just want to add, we're taught in rabbinical school, and there is actually a tractate on this subject, or a piece of Talmud on the subject, that prayer should never be a tircha, it should never be a burden on the community. And I know there are some here that are fasting, and some have been here, most of the day. And so we want to make sure that we conclude the service at at 6. We're going to conclude this portion of our service with Hayom on page 318. Hayom Ta'amtzinu.
Hayom, 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 hayom tzaratzenu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tevorkenu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tikarlenu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tikarlenu, amen. Hayom, hayom, tivenu, lechayim tovim, amen. Hayom, 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 timashavetenu, amen. Hayom, hayom, bimekenu, bimen zichicha, bimen tichicha, amen, amen.
And before we close our books completely, I want to again welcome everyone who came on Zoom. For those of you who are interested, there were 53 people who signed in, and of course that doesn't include couples who signed in. So we're really very, very grateful for the spiritual home that is created here with the people who are here and the people who are joining us virtually. Once again, good Yontif, and we'll see you back here later on this afternoon.
Hey, Mel. You muted.